What's going on, everybody? King of Dragons 5000 here, coming at you with another figure review. Today we'll be having a look at the Medicom Toys Mafex Batman from the animated series Batman: The New Adventures. And so here we have the animated series Mafex Batman posed and out of the packaging. Before we take a look at the figure, let's actually run through his accessories. Batman does come with two versions of his head sculpt. We do get a cowled head with a stern expression, which looks nice. And then we do get an unmasked Bruce Wayne expression. He also does come with several sets of hands. We get a pair of fists. We get a pair of relaxed hands. We get a pair of splayed open hands. We get a pair of hands for holding the grapple gun. Then we get a pair of hands for holding the batarang. Batman, of course, does come with a batarang which loosely fits in his batarang holding hand, unfortunately. And then he does get a grapple hook hand, or a grapple hook that does fit in his grapple hook hand. And then finally he does get two versions of the cape. We do have the cloth cape, which is not my favorite, but it is a cloth cape. And then we get a plastic cape, which more represents the streamlined look of the animated series. Other than that, Batman doesn't come with anything else. I think some more head expressions would have been a little better for this figure, but that's unfortunately all we got with him. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually have a closer look at the New Adventures Batman. And so here we have a closer look at the New Adventures Batman, and I have to say Mafex has done an incredible job with the source material given. So this isn't my preferred animated series Batman look. I much rather prefer the animated series version opposed to the New Adventures version, but it's still a really nice looking figure. Now, that's not to say it's a perfect figure. There are some issues with it, so let's actually run through this figure. The head sculpt is done phenomenal. This is one of the best animated series Batman head sculpts that I have ever seen. It's better than the McFarlane one, and it actually rivals the DC Direct version, which I think this one is much better. It actually does look like he just popped out of the TV screen and is in hand, and it looks really nice, especially for the New Adventures look. This is spot on perfect. It even has that smushed face that we saw with Tim Bruce's drawing, so yeah, it's really nice. It's really accurate to the source material, so I really do like that, and it's very faithful. Now, it is very sleek and it's very smooth. You don't get too much texturing here on this. If any, you don't get any texture, to be quite honest, but thankfully we do have some ridges here on his cowl, which does help with the way the light catches. As you can see, this little ridge right here does catch the light really nicely. So overall, as far as the aesthetic goes, this is perfect. It matches exactly what it's supposed to be, so I have to give Mafex props there. It is a very difficult task to capture something from a cartoon and make it into 3D. This is very, very well done. So moving on to the rest of his costume, you can see I do have him with the cloth cape on right now, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. Let's actually focus on his costume. Now, being the New Adventures Batman, he just has the black bat across his chest, which is very nice. And just like I was talking, he's very simple, yet this is a very, very nice look for Batman. As you can see, it's very clean. The sculpt work is really smooth, and like I said, it's accurate to what it's supposed to be, so I really can't fault it for being this simple, but it still looks nice. And one thing I do like is that they did etch the bat into the suit. It's not just painted on. You can actually see the mold lines on this, so it looks really nice. That big, broad, pointed chest that Batman did have looks really nice. And then we go on to his really big arms, and again, this was just the animated style of Batman. He had these really broad chest and really skinny legs, and like I said, it's very faithful to the animated series that it's based off of. You can see he also does have the animated series style flares to his gloves, where it's not the three spikes, it's more like three angles coming out of his glove, and the way they made it look is perfect. He does have his fists on right now, as you can see, looking really nice there. I do like how this looks. Even though it's just a tube, they found a way to implement articulation into this figure, so I do like that. Again, because it is based off the cartoon, we are going to have obvious cuts in the mold. It's not like actual suit body or a comic book where we would have a line to separate the torso. They do have a very distinct torso, and you can see on mine, unfortunately, it is chipped right here. That's not a bad thing. It's really not that noticeable. It's just very noticeable here on camera. Sporting the utility belt, we have this very simple utility belt where we have the buckle and then we have the pouches all in one color, which again, it's not the flashiest for an action figure, but it does represent the source material wonderfully. This is the era that Batman still had the trunks on. He didn't lose the trunks till the New 52, so Batman had the trunks. Then we go on to his tube-like legs, as you can see. On mine, I didn't notice that the left knee is a little bit weaker than the right knee, but this guy is going to be top heavy, and these knees, I wonder how long they're actually going to last, because even though this is a hollow piece, you can actually hear that my finger tapping on that, that's pretty hollow. The mid-torso is kind of hollow. It's still pretty top-heavy for these legs, so I do wonder about the longevity of these if you have him standing in a neutral pose, because he's very broad up here in the chest, and we have these very skinny legs, which it's not ideal for an action figure per se, but as far as the look of the source, it does the job. And then we go on to his boots, which again, very skinny ankles. Now I do like the fact that these are more durable than the DC collectibles versions. I never got the DC collectible versions because I did hear horror stories of them breaking. So yeah. Then we have these very distinct feet that Bruce Timm would always draw. Did I call him Tim Bruce at the beginning? I don't remember what I called him, but Bruce Timm's feet had this very angular look to them, and this is spot on perfect. So yeah, overall, the look of this figure is phenomenal. Now let's talk about something I'm not a fan of, the cape. As much as I love fabric capes, I am not a fan of this material. This is the exact same material that they gave the Dark Knight Returns Black Batman, and again, not a fan of it. It's a very stiff material, and it is prone to fraying. You can see it's, I don't know if you can see it if the camera will focus, it's already started to fray in some areas. It's just the material that they make this cape out of. It doesn't really work for action figures. Like even on this one, you can see it's already starting to fray, and this is just fresh out of the box. So the longevity of this cape is in question, and if you're gonna have a perfect animated series look, they did include a plastic cape for you to have on Batman. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually get Batman posed and compare to other figures you may have in your collection. So here we have the Mafex animated series Batman posed next to a Marvel Legends Cyclops and a DC Multiverse Superman. Here we have Batman posed next to a WWE Elite Scale figure and a Mezco 112 Collective Popeye the Sailor Man. And finally, here we do have the animated series Batman posed next to a Lightning Collection White Ranger and a Star Wars Black Series Mandalorian. So with the comparisons out of the way, let's actually have a look at Batman's articulation, and this is where I think the figure does falter a little bit. He does have a double ball joint in the head, but he can only look up to about that much, and he can't really look down without popping the head off. Well, that's about as far down as it, yep, there it goes. It's a really nice effort, but yeah, I would have liked to see a little more range in the head. He can get some slight head tilt. Well, it's actually better than you would think, but it does work fine, does turn left and right, as you can see. But yeah, really limited in the head, and for the source material where he would look up quite a bit, that's kind of lackluster, to be quite honest. So let's actually take his cape off just so you can see how the engineering on his body works. So we do have a ball joint here in the shoulder, so we can pivot the arm down, can pivot the arm up, can pivot forward and back a little bit, but because of how much clearance is in the shoulder, that joint really doesn't move forward and back, and he does thankfully have a butterfly joint which can help the arm come out, but it doesn't come out all too far, and that's mainly because of how broad-chested he is, and they didn't want to cut into the sculpt. So I completely understand, for keeping it accurate to the source material, sacrifices had to be made. The arms do go out to the side really nicely. They do go all the way around, no problem. He does have a bicep swivel here at his bicep, which I guess works fine, but you do have this really awkward cut because of how the arm is designed. He does have a double bend here at the elbow, giving him a really nice bend. I do like that. Then he does have a ball hinge here at the wrist, which does pivot up and down. We can swivel that to have in and out movement. Now, I believe he does have a double ball joint here in the torso, and that does let him look back about that far. Unfortunately, virtually no ab crunch going forward because of how he is designed. They really couldn't engineer that any better. Well, actually they could have. If they had just shaved down a little bit on the inside, he would have a little more crunch going forward. So yeah, no forward mobility on that ab crunch, and he does have another ball joint here at the waist, but as you can see, it's mainly going to be for swiveling. He gets some slight pivot, doesn't go back. Yes, he does go back to about right there, moving both those joints together. Get some really nice back bend going forward. We have seen better. We have honestly seen much better in Mafex, so that is unfortunate. So the legs, they are still on drop down ball joints, so they do go out about there, but because of the way it's sculpted, his leg will always kick out to the side. Going out to the side, yeah, for a Mafex figure, that is very lackluster. I'm not a fan of that. He does have a thigh swivel up high, double bend here at the knee, giving us some pretty good range. No swivel at the boot, but he does swivel here at the ankle. Does have a hinge which goes back and forward, and then we can rotate that to have a true rocker ankle, but he also does have a forward facing pin for rocker ankle, and then we do have toe hinge. So overall, the articulation on this Batman is what you would expect out of an action figure that looks like this. It's very hard to make an animated series Batman fully articulated, and I guess with what Mafex had, they did the best they could. Although there are some areas that can be improved upon, this is pretty much a good outing for a first try. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually get Batman posed for my final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up this review. And so here we have the Mafex New Adventures Batman pose for my final thoughts, and overall, I'm actually torn about this figure, you guys. On the one hand, I really want to love it because it is from one of my childhood memories of the Batman animated series, which I loved so much. I used to watch it all the time coming home from school with my grandpa, and that was one of my favorite things to do. But having the figure in hand, I gotta call it a spade at some point, guys, and there are some things about this figure that aren't great and could be better. The articulation, I do understand why it is somewhat limited. The style of this figure really doesn't make for a super articulated figure, but Mafex has done stylized characters and given them fantastic articulation. Just look at their Into the Spider-Verse characters. They have fantastic articulation with stylized looks, so I don't see why Mafex couldn't have done it with this figure. I think it's just the art style is so much different, and this is so very unique to Batman that it's very hard to make an articulated version of this figure. Now, like I said, I am torn. I really do like it, but is it really a great figure? That is really for you to decide. On the one hand, I want to say it's perfect because it does capture the look of the animated series Batman, and it looks just like he came out of the screen. So yeah, I gotta say, yes, it looks just like the source material, but it might be a little bit too faithful to the source material, in which it doesn't lend itself well to being an action figure, and that is probably where a lot of people will draw the line. Me personally, I still like the look of it, and the fact that it did give you the cape to give him a more streamlined appearance is something I do appreciate Mafex doing. But again, this Batman isn't going to be for everybody. If you're a nostalgia fan like I am, who grew up watching the animated series, this is going to be a very nice figure for you to own. However, if you're not really that big a fan of the Bruce Timm art style, I can honestly see you guys passing on this figure. Now, like I said, it is very in the eye of the beholder. If you really want to have this figure in your collection, I would recommend you add him to your collection. If you're not a fan of the animated series look, definitely pass on this figure. It's really up to you guys what you guys are looking for when it comes to an animated Batman figure. Now, if you are looking for this Batman, he is starting to hit stores at the time I'm making this video. I actually got mine off HobbyLink Japan, where I did pay about $80 for Batman, plus along with other things I got shipped. I really did get a really good shipping price for Batman. He's available on Big Bad Toy Store at the time I'm making this video, and you will be looking at about $104 for this figure. Do I see $104 in this Batman? Absolutely not. This is one figure that I can honestly say, if you are not crazy about it and you can stand missing out on it, definitely miss out on it, because you're probably not going to like it if you didn't grow up watching the cartoon. That's just my take on it, guys. With that being said, guys, I'm King of Dragons 5000. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and check out all my other action figure reviews, as well as all my other Mafex videos. Hopefully you find them informative. As always, if there's a figure you would like to see me review, let me know down in the comments, and if it fits in my collection, I'll gladly have a look at it. While you're at it, check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos, and as always, ring that bell to be notified every time I upload a video. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Take care, everyone.